Hey everybody, my name is Neha and welcome back to my channel. So today is our third segment of the summary of psychology of money, and before we begin it, I'd like to thank you all for having liked and shared my videos and subscribing to my channel. If you still haven't, please subscribe to my channel. The icon must be somewhere below this video, and hit the bell notification so that whenever I post a video, you get a notification. Thank you all so much for having supported me so far, and please continue to shower your love. So today, let's start with chapter 12, which is surprise. And that says that things that have never happened so far happen all the time. History is a study of surprising events. Ironically, it is taken by investors as a guide to the future. So how does history help us? History helps us set our expectations. It helps us see where people went wrong and so that we can avoid it. It offers a rough guide, but it can never be taken as a map to the future, isn't it? For a doctor, a kidney can be operated in 2020 in the same way as it would have been operated back in 1020. But this is not the case in investing. Investing is all about a massive group of people taking imperfect decisions with whatever limited information they have about things that will have a massive effect on their life, which can make even smart people nervous, greedy, paranoid, and whatnot. Investing is influenced by a few outlier events which move the needle in the economy and the stock markets. For example, the Great Depression, the World War II, the dot-com bubble, September 11th, the housing crash of mid-2000s. All of these influenced so many unrelated events. Around 15 billion people were born between the 19th and the 20th century. But imagine how different this world or this global economy would be if a few people didn't exist. Like Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Thomas Edison, Bill Gates, Martin Luther King. From borders to technology to everything would have been so different if these people wouldn't have been there in our history. Similarly, imagine the last century without the Great Depression, World War II, vaccines, antibiotics, the fall of the Soviet Union. The worst or best event has no precedent. Whenever we are surprised by something, we say, we'll never make that mistake again. But when we made a mistake, when we couldn't anticipate something, the lesson to be learned here is that the world is surprising. It is difficult to anticipate things, to admit that we have no idea what might happen next. Secondly, history is also a misleading guide to the future. For example, venture capitals barely existed until 25 to 27 years ago. Nike's founder, Phil Knight, he also says that when he started his business, there were no VCs. There were only a few banks with no imagination. Imagine how difficult it must have been for him to begin and establish his business. Technology stocks were virtually non-existent until 50 years ago. Today, they include a fifth of an index. Accounting rules, auditing, market liquidity, everything has changed. So then, how can history be taken as a map for the future? Our takeaway from the history should be people's relationship to greed and fear, how they behave under stress, how they respond to situations. It is not meant to set our specific trends, trades, sectors, causal relationships of markets, and what people should do with their money. So then the question is, how should we plan for the future? Let's come on to chapter 13, which talks about room for error. It says that you should always plan on your plan not going according to your plan. They say that the best example of financial behavior can be seen in the Las Vegas casinos, where there are games of odds, not certainties. They may think that they have a good chance of being right, but they also know that they have a chance of being wrong. Strange, but their strategy revolves around humility. The fact that they can't and they don't know what might happen next. Even when odds are in your favor, you bet too heavily. If you go wrong, you can't even keep playing. There's never a moment so right that you can bet everything that you have. World is not that kind to anyone. You have to keep room for error. Forecasting with precision is very difficult. Nothing is black or white. Most of the things are most of the things are in gray area, where pursuing things in a range of outcomes that are acceptable is a smart way of moving ahead. But people underestimate room for error. The pundit who speaks in unshakable certainties will gain a larger following than the one who says, "We can't know for sure." Other people's home renovation plans, we always estimate that it'll go 25 to 50% over the budget or over the time. But when it comes to our house's budget, we think that it'll all go on time and on budget. Room for error is really underappreciated. Bill Gates, he always took a conservative approach. He wanted to have enough money in the bank to pay a year's worth of payroll. Warren Buffett had a similar approach. Okay, you tell me, can you survive your assets declining by 30%? On a spreadsheet, maybe yes. But what about mentally? What does it do to your psyche? Spreadsheets are good at numbers, but it doesn't tell you anything about how you'll feel when you tuck your kids at night, wondering what your investing decisions might do to their future. The idea is that yes, you need to take risks in life to move ahead, but no risk that can wipe you out is ever worth taking. There is no margin of safety or room for error that can ever compensate for the risk. A homeowner who was wiped out in 2009 had no chance of taking advantage of the cheap mortgage in 2010. Lehman Brothers, they did not have a chance to invest in cheap debt in 2009. They were done. You need to ensure that you're able to remain standing long enough for your risks to pay off. You have to survive to succeed. A lot of you might be aware of the Battle of Stalingrad in World War II, which is one of the largest battles in history. So during that time, there was a German tank unit that sat in reserve. But when they were desperately needed in the front, most of them didn't work. What had happened? The field mice had eaten away the insulation that covered the electrical systems. Now Germans had the most sophisticated equipment in the world, yet they were defeated by mice. This never crossed their minds. Mice. I mean, what kind of a tank designer thinks about mouse protection? But these kind of things happen all the time. You can plan for every risk except for the things that are too crazy to cross your mind. And those crazy things are the things that can cause the biggest harm. So the trick is, you don't need a reason to save or to keep a room for error. It is important to save for things you can't possibly predict or comprehend, like mice. But how does all of this apply to you? For that, let's see our chapter 14. You'll change. Long-term planning is hard because your goals and your desires, they change over the time. So people are poor forecasters of their future selves. So imagining a goal is one thing, but imagining a goal with respect to the stresses that you might get in pursuit of those goals is a completely different thing altogether. A 2-year-old who calls his car or a tractor vroom vroom thinks that he'll grow up to become a tractor driver. But when he really grows up, he thinks that's not a prestigious career. Rather, he'd want to become a lawyer. Now, as a lawyer, he has long working hours and is left with no time for his family. Then the childcare becomes expensive and you decide to be a stay-at-home parent. And then you feel unprepared for your retirement. Is it that we don't know what the future holds for us? No, it's not that. The thing is that we don't even know what we will want in our future. Young people pay for removing the tattoos that the teenagers paid good money to get. Middle-aged people rush to divorce people who young adults rushed to marry. People with little income may be happy. People with high income may also be happy. Both have their own risks. The former is unprepared to raise a family. The latter regrets that he spent his youthful years in a small cubicle. So, there is no easy solution. There are a lot of points to learn from here, but mainly, we should be avoiding extreme ends of planning. Compounding works best if you can give your plan years or decades to grow. And most importantly, you should be able to accept the reality of changing our minds. Then we come on to chapter 15, which talks about nothing's free. S&P increased 119 folds in 50 years ending 2018. All you had to do after investing was sit back and relax. Let your money compound. Hold stocks for long run. But you know how hard it is to maintain a long-term outlook? Like everything, successful investing also demands price. But its currency is not dollars. It's volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. You want to earn 11% annual return over next 30 years so you can retire in peace. But does this reward come for free? The price is the never-ending taunt from the market. Take an example of Netflix stock. It returned more than 35,000% from 2002 to 2018. But it traded below its previous all-time highs 94% of the days. So this volatility it needs to be seen like a price that you need to pay to get the returns from investing. For example, Disneyland. You're not forced to go there, but the fee is $100 if you want to go. Now, of course, you can go to the local country fair where the fees is just $10 and you still might have a good time, but you will get what you paid for. So, find the price and pay it. Chapter 16 is You and Me, which talks about being beware of taking financial cues from other people who are playing a different game altogether than what you are playing. All sort of bubbles like the dot-com bubble, the housing bubble. We've seen these kind of bubbles ruining people's lives. Yet we don't learn from them. Why? Because they are not like cancer that you do a biopsy and you get to know the exact reason of why the cancer has happened. It's more like the falling of a political party where the cause and the blame, all of them are never agreed upon. And the reason is that investors take cues from other investors who are playing a completely different game from each other. How much you should pay for Google stock trading will depend on who you are. Whether you have a 30-year time horizon, or you're looking to cash out in the next 10 years, or you're going to sell it within 1 year, or you're a day trader and you're going to sell it or buy it or take another decision within this day. So you see, the prices that look ridiculous to one person might make complete sense for another. We mostly blame it on the day traders. But the problem really happens when the long-term traders take cues from the day traders. When you're advised, buy this stock, they don't know who you are. Whether you're a teenager just trading to have some fun and to gain some experience, or you're an elderly widow on a limited budget, or you're a hedge fund manager trying to shore up books before the quarter ends. Do all of them have the same priorities? They don't. Now, it doesn't end at this. Being influenced by people also influences how you think you're supposed to spend your money. We see people spending on cars, homes, clothing, vacations, but we don't get to see their goals, their aspirations, their worries. A young lawyer aiming to be a partner at a prestigious law firm might need to maintain an appearance that a writer who can work in sweatpants has no need for. But when former's purchases set the latter's expectations, problems arise because they both are playing different games. That is why Morgan suggests you to go out of your way to identify what is your game. Next chapter is chapter 17, Pessimism. Optimism sounds more like a sales pitch. Pessimism, on the other hand, sounds like someone is trying to help you. How? If a smart person tells me they have a stock pick that is going to rise tenfold in the next year, I might or might not believe it. But if even a person with full of nonsense comes and tells me that one of the stocks that I own is going to collapse because of an accounting fraud, I will definitely listen to him. About Wright brothers, there were so many of them who did not believe him. It was only they were seen to be flying in 1905, but it was not until 1908 when some experienced reporters noticed him and wrote about him. In fact, the first mention about their flying was when one of the army lieutenants was killed in a demonstration flight. Pessimism. Growth is driven by compounding, but it's too slow to be noticed. Destruction, on the other hand, is like a single point of failure. It happens in an instant, so it's fresh and it gains attention. The next chapter, chapter 18, is You'll Believe Anything, which talks about how fictions are so appealing and how stories are more powerful than statistics. So here, Morgan asks us to imagine a situation wherein an alien is dropped on the earth to just see the world around. So he's here in the year 2007, for example. He sees the same amount of partygoers, happy partygoers, the huge billboards, the TV cameras, the fireworks. He again comes back in 2009 and sees almost the similar things. The same kind of happy party goers, the huge billboards, the fireworks, the TV cameras. Moreover, he dives a little deeper into the offices. He finds the same amount of computers, the desks, etc. All in all, mostly similar. But he goes in a little deeper. He sees that the technology has improved, the social media has exponentially improved, and a little bit other things also, like the cars are faster, more efficient, etc. But then he looks at the numbers. He's shocked that US households are $16 trillion poorer in 2009 than they were in 2007. He's shocked that 10 million more Americans are now unemployed. The stock market is worth half than what it was before in 2007. He says, I don't get it. He asks the people there, you guys have the same amount of knowledge, the same tools, the same ideas. Nothing has changed. Why are you poorer? Why are you so pessimistic? So it turns out that there was one change that this alien could not see between 2007 and 2009. And that was the stories we told ourselves about the economy. In 2007, we told a story about the stability of housing prices, the prudence of the bankers, and the ability of the financial markets to accurately price risk. And in 2009, we stopped believing that story. That's the only thing that has changed, but that made the entire difference in the world. So this was a short story to tell us clearly about we are living in a story-driven world, and it is in the story-driven world that we have to manage our money. Next chapter, chapter 19, is a consolidation of all the chapters starting 1 to 18 in brief, just to remind the readers of what we've discovered so far about psychology of money. And it is in chapter 20 that talks about his confessions. It talks about what he has done in investing so far, what his goals are, and how his investing decisions are based completely upon what his goals are, what his family's goals are, and how they stick on to it, not being influenced by the stories, the people, making social comparisons, all of that. For example, independence is his and his family's biggest priority, and all the investing decisions that are taken with respect to this goal of theirs. For him, being able to wake up one morning and change what you're doing on your own terms whenever you're ready, that seems to them like the grandmother of all financial goals. And independence for him does not mean that you stop working. It means you only do the work that you like, with the people that you like, at the times you want, and for as long as you want. He's aware of the fact that all lifestyles are on a spectrum, and what is decent to one may feel like royalty or poverty to another. So with all of this in mind, he says that virtually all of their incomes have contributed to their independence fund as savings. And he says that it's not that their aspirations are over or they're non-existent. They live comfortably, they have nice stuff, but it's just that they've ensured and they've learned how to stop their goalposts from moving. Now he also says that this might not work for everybody else, but it does for his family because that is what they agree on to. Most of what they get pleasure from, for example, morning walks, reading, podcasts, costs a little, so they rarely feel that they're missing on something. But independence yet is their top goal, and that is what they keep working towards. He's influenced by Nassim Taleb's phrase, who says that true success is exiting some rat race to modulate one's activities for peace of mind. He says that everything that he's learned about personal finance, it all tells him that everyone, without an exception, will eventually face a huge expense that they did not expect. And of course, they don't plan for these expenses because they did not expect them to happen. He also reminds himself that the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it. Ultimately, he reminds himself and all of us that yes, his goal is of independence, and they'll always do whatever maximizes for sleeping well at night. So with this, we come to the end of our video. I hope you liked it. If you did, do like it, share it, subscribe to my channel as well. And as I said earlier, do hit the bell icon so that you're able to get the notifications. Hope to see you all in my next video. Take care. Bye.